Hey Internet, this is Nate, and it's going to be a little bit of a different kind of video. I don't normally do game reviews except in jest, and this isn't really going to be a game review because I haven't finished the game we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking today about Midnight Suns. It's the brand new game by Firaxis or Firaxis if we're feeling fancy. I played it about 4 hours on stream, and I'm not going to be playing any more of it. And it's funny because it feels like if you wrote down, and this is like basically why I wanted to play the game in the first place. If you write down this game on paper, what it is like a super fit for me as a gamer. I'm huge into. I mean, it may not look like it if you look at my last year because of all these Swarm Survivors and things like that. But pre-Swarm Survivor, my favorite genre of video games are heavily strategic, tactical games, turn-based games, deck builders, and hot shit. We got all of them. So I love OG and new G, XCOM. Love Civ 5, love Civ 6, played Civ 5 competitively for a little while. Played Civ, I mean, competitively is a strong word. I played it on multiplayer a lot online. I played Civ 6 when it first came out quite extensively. And I would say even though, you know, there's like a little bit of the XCOM DNA, the bigger DNA is like really coming from like, you know, deck builder turn-based games, combat games like Slay the Spire, Monster Train, and so on. More Slay the Spire than Monster Train. So just writing all that down, having an XCOM-esque tactical game using Slay the Spire deck building with kind of Marvel coat of paint, all of that just hits everything for me in terms of like what I would want out of a video game. But I'm not going to be playing it anymore, and there's some reasons why. To start, why don't we talk about the actual core gameplay of the game, which is what is typically, you know, if you're looking at the game, that's what you're going to be shown. So we can jump into basically how the game operates. It's all this, you know, turn-based with cards. So you'll come into a fight with a group of heroes, and your group of heroes will. By the way, I'm referring to footage from my 4-hour stream yesterday. But you'll come in with you know, up to 3. I think it's 3 in every battle. Three heroes, and you're going to get a mix of cards from those different heroes, which represent those heroes' abilities on the battlefield. But unlike a typical deck builder game, you know, there's not just the pick a card, hit an enemy. There's a tactical level to it of positioning and using environments and things like that. And the core combat itself is actually like pretty good, right? So let me see if we can watch for a little bit. So you can, again, look around the battlefield. And in some of the major deviations from XCOM, you know, there's no like chances to hit. So you're always guaranteed to hit a target when you want. You'll see me here trying to decide if we want to use some AoE environmental effects or things like that. But there's a lot of like play in how you hit enemies into each other like that, to do extra damage, to move enemies around, to dodge attacks that are AoE attacks. And that part's like really cool, coupled with the deck building idea. Plus there's this really cool thing where you're trying to build up a meter and then use a meter to play special abilities. You see in the bottom right, there's this heroism meter. As you use certain abilities, heroism goes up. Certain abilities cost a certain amount of heroism and typically do much more damage or have much more powerful effects. So all of that is actually like pretty good. And if the game was this, you know, deck building and playing the tactical strategy once you've built your deck, and that was like really it. Like if this was the whole game, I would be playing the hell out of this, because this part I loved. This is the part of the game that I super enjoyed. Building the decks, thinking of good card combinations. I mean, I say that loosely. I didn't have a massive amount of cards to pick from when I was playing. But yeah, picking heroes and building your decks and then coming into these missions and playing the missions, that's easily the best part of the game. It's not incredible. It's not the best deck builder I've played. I think in some ways, what makes deck builders really fun is the roguelike aspect to them. And yes, you get to like randomly pick abilities, but it's not really the case. You're deciding pre-mission what you're taking in, right? Like there's no RNG there. So I think there's a little bit of that lost in traditional deck builders. Like again, Slay the Spire. Part of the fun of Slay the Spire is not just playing the actual combat of Slay the Spire, which is pretty fun, but it's building your deck through an entire run. But okay, you could call Midnight Suns in a long, sorry, excuse me. In one way, you could call it. Sorry, I'm getting over the flu, and it's still here a bit. But one giant, run of Slay the Spire, where you're building this massive deck across the entire game. And then you can kind of create sub-decks when you're doing missions. But either way, this part's pretty good. And is not the reason that I'm not going to come back and play more of the game. This part's totally fine. The problem is, and this kind of harkens back to Firaxis game design, which typical of all of their games. All of the games they develop are not one game. They are multiple games with big systems that are distinct and yet interplay with each other. So thinking about XCOM, Enemy Unknown and XCOM 2, both of them have two major games that you're playing. There's the strategic layer, which is the base building, mission selection, the overall meta game. And then you have the actual tactical gameplay, which is the moment-to-moment turn-based combats once you're in the missions. And these two have a synergistic relationship. The better you play the missions, the better your troops get, the better equipment you're going to take back to your base, the more you're going to get rewards from missions. That then feeds into being able to build a better base and have better troops to send into those next missions to make those missions easier to accomplish, and you get a positive feedback loop. That's often why it's commonly said in XCOM that once you've lost, it's not the first loss that kills you. It's that first loss sets you so far back that you're gonna lose 10 days from now, and it's now inevitable. That one loss you had early puts you so far back in terms of pacing that you've lost the next 10 days. You're going to lose in the next 10 days, and it's almost insurmountable because of how much that feedback loop plays into whether you'll succeed in the game or not. And I can see in some of the design of Midnight Suns, and I think Midnight Suns is intended to appeal to an audience unlike XCOM, which is a pretty hardcore audience. I wouldn't say exclusively hardcore, but I mean, it's a much smaller audience. Not as many people are going to play an XCOM versus a Midnight Sun. And it's an audience that's, I would say, much more forgiving of like extreme difficulty. And now you take Midnight Suns, which is supposed to be much broader appeal, MCU fans, strategy fans, maybe at large, but mostly action-oriented fans that are more used to Marvel's like mobile games, right? They're not hard. And I will say this game is not hard, but there's that edge, the XCOM edge, the XCOM you have to stay on top of it or you're going to lose, is not present here at all, which is fine. Okay, different audiences, different strokes, different folks, and all that. But coming back to my original point, XCOM is two games. It is a strategic game coupled with a tactical game, and there's strong interplay between those two layers. Civilization 6, Civilization 5, all these are very similar, where it is a city building game, a settling game, with a military strategy game built on top. And again, there's interplay. The better your cities do, the better you are at military. The better you are at military, easier it is typically to maintain your cities. So there's interplay between the systems. Okay. So we've talked about one of the systems of Midnight Suns. What's the other? And the other in this case, in a most baffling situation, what was decided, I guess, was rather than having a really strong strategic layer to Midnight Suns to complement the tactical moment-to-moment gameplay in the battles, was instead, let's make Baby's First Skyrim and have you run around the forest. And so what you end up with is, if you were to scroll through my stream, and keep in mind that when I did my stream was like, I would say, extremely story agnostic. Like I skipped all the story. We just went gameplay, because it's Firaxis. They're not bringing Walt Whitman to write the story. You know, like it's not going to be. And I don't really play deck builders for the story anyway. So I kind of came in knowing it's Firaxis, so the story is going to be what it is, and it's a deck builder. I just want to get into the deck building, so that's why I was going for. But if you were to go through my entire 4-hour stream and stop at like any 1 minute segment in that entire stream, 3 out of 4 times you are not going to see what I just showed you, which is this, like, you know, card-based combat. What you're gonna see is me wandering the hell around in a tank top playing Baby's First Skyrim, looking for random shit all over the place and solving really stupid puzzles. I don't know what the hell this game is supposed to be. And again, it wouldn't be so egregious, except that Baby's First Skyrim represents roughly 75% of the game that I've played so far. I played for 4 hours and got 1 hour of deck builder and 3 hours of run around the X-Men's backyard looking for random stuff. And again, this would not be so terrible. Okay, fine. We have to play Baby's First Skyrim. Maybe it's a little bit too long. Oh, and I say Baby's First Skyrim, but what you just found, which is fantastic, is a New Haven, which is a place where I can do the date simulator. That's not even a joke. It's a date simulator. It's Baby's First Skyrim. And even to do the deck building aspects, I can't just go into a menu and say, okay, that's actually a little bit false. I can go into a menu and prepare my deck. But if I want to, like, do research and, you know, unlock new cards and, like, go talk to a person, I have to walk the hell over there. It is the most baffling decision making to me, how it came to the conclusion that, like, what people really wanted in XCOM was to walk around the base and talk to people and look for random stuff. Like, get me out of this, like, you know, building a base and, like, making strategic decisions. Like, let me go tell Tony Stark how to manage his day-to-day and go on a date by the gurgling stream. Like that. Again, I don't know how they came to the conclusion that this is the thing that gamers wanted, but it is unavoidable. You will be doing this. Whether you do the actual go out into the forest and search for shit, which I don't know how much of this is mandatory versus optional. You will be doing a lot of walking around with, you know, low budget GTA 5 characters. And this kind of killed momentum for me. The number of times people came into my stream and said, oh, I thought you were going to play that new deck builder, only to get the response, I'm just playing the low budget Skyrim part. It happened over and over and over and over again. So this is like, and I would say again, if this was split more evenly or even still more tilted towards the game that's fun, which is the deck builder and tactical combat, I think I would have been okay. But then there's some stuff that I morally can't agree with. and I don't know if I can get to it in and find it in the video. Probably going to be too tough to find exactly the segment. But basically, your character's look and the other characters' looks in the game, the different heroes, can be customized using an in-game currency, which is not egregious. It's a little annoying because things are pretty expensive. And it's like every hero has like several outfits. You have to buy all of them with in-game currency, except for the actually good ones, because those ones cost real money. And that to me is like over the top. Now, it's not the first time Firaxis has charged for in-game content. Most of Civ 6's add-ons, all their like extra civs include, I mean, then there was the big DLC packs, but like all the extra civs and things like that. Okay, but they have like gameplay things to them as well. But in a single player game like this, to have, you know, the best looking versions of each character be locked behind extra pay is a little bit too much for me. The grind is annoying. The exploitation of, you know, microtransactions for basic visual improvements is a little bit, honestly, kind of offensive, given their history and given the type of game that it is. So, primary reason I'm not playing is due to just, honestly, I can't be bothered to play this part of the game ever again. It's really boring. It's not interesting. And it was, in my opinion, a complete waste of time. And I do not at all understand how they came to the conclusion that this was the best way to represent, you know, their typical two games that kind of work off each other structure. I don't know how this became that other game. And it's a shame because the deck building missions, like the missions and the deck building, is actually pretty good. Like this game that's trapped, that is being trapped by the warden of Baby's First Skyrim, is pretty good. But yeah, between Baby's First Skyrim and the level of microtransactions in the game, I won't be playing any more of it. So I thought I would just give my thoughts. I didn't really want to make it too belabored, keep it under 20 minutes, but those are my thoughts on Midnight Suns. I don't know. There's a world where like I come back and try it, but I think that's a world that's not a world I can imagine, at least right now. So for now, this has been Nate. Hope you guys enjoyed me ranting about Midnight Suns, and I will catch you guys next time. See you later.